Good morning. Welcome to the 2022 Royal Canadian Air Force Foundation Remembrance Day ceremony at Toronto's Mount Pleasant Cemetery Mausoleum. Thank you for joining us. Please welcome our MC, Jeremy Diamond, RCAF Foundation CEO.
Good morning. Welcome to the Royal Canadian Air Force Foundation Remembrance Day ceremony at Toronto's Mount Pleasant Cemetery Mausoleum. It's so great to see everybody. My name is Jeremy Diamond, and I'm the CEO of the RCAF Foundation and your MC today. As we begin, I want to acknowledge the land on which we are meeting is the traditional territory of many indigenous nations and clans, including the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. And this land still remains home to many Indigenous communities. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by the terms of Treaty 13, and the bonds and promises made in that treaty created a special relationship that is now 116 years old. It is the reason why we have been able to settle here, raise our families, and especially today, to stand here and honor those who have served in the pursuit of peace. This was particularly poignant this past Tuesday as we observed Indigenous Veterans Day across Canada. Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us here online. For those in person, I ask you to put your phones on silent mode so as not to disturb today's ceremony. On behalf of the RCAF Foundation, we are grateful for the individuals who have helped put this event together. It is so wonderful to see people again in person and recognize the many others watching this broadcast across the country. For today's ceremony, we welcome from the RCAF, Lieutenant General Eric Kenney, RCAF Commander, Colonel Daryl Taylor, 16 Wing Commander, Renee Van Kessel, 16 Wing Honorary Colonel, Jeff Risconi, 16 Wing Chief Warrant Officer, John Hall, Chief Warrant Officer, and Mustafa Kaya, 16 Wing Chaplain. As well, Honorable Carolyn Bennett, Federal Member of Parliament for St. Paul's, Jill Andrew, Provincial Member of Parliament for Toronto St. Paul's, Stephanie Bowman, Provincial Member of Parliament for Don Valley West, Rachel Chernos Lynn from the TDSB, and Honorary Colonel for the Chief of Defense Staff Office and Chair of the RCAF Foundation, John Wright, as well as veterans and former serving members of the Canadian Armed Forces and their families. We are standing in front of something very special. The mausoleum at Mount Pleasant Cemetery, where the most decorated Canadian and the most decorated person in the entire Commonwealth lies, Royal Canadian Air Force Wing Commander William G. Barker, who was awarded the Victoria Cross in 1918 and later became the first executive director of the Royal Canadian Air Force. We extend a very special thank you to the leadership and staff of Mount Pleasant Cemetery, who each year provide us with this cherished backdrop and setting for this ceremony. The many volunteers, including those from 53 Division of the Toronto Police Service, our Piper Doug Swan, our wonderful cadets from 631 and 330 squadrons, and VVC for making us look and sound good. And finally, thank you to Vicki Allers, who has faithfully produced this event for many years, as well as Jennifer Blake, for your wonderful contributions today. While this particular gathering spot, each Remembrance Day, is for the RCAF, it is truly open to every past and present military participant anywhere to join us today, as well as members of the public from far and wide to pay homage and respect to those that have lost their lives in the service to their country. It is a hidden gem in this city, and we are honored to be here to host this important event. Welcome to all the young people. There are so many of you, over 500 strong from Hodgson Middle School, as well as your parents, your guardians, other family members, your teachers, your principal, and all others who are watching today. Our mission at the RCF Foundation is to tell the stories of the nearly 100 years of the Air Force, but also engage and empower the next generation of aviators, aerospace professionals, and members of the RCAF. We achieve this through public events, education programs, digital storytelling, and financial support for students, including an annual scholarship program through which we have supported nearly 300 young people in just over 1 year. I am proud that members of our board of directors, advisory council, partners, and supporters have joined us here this morning. It is now my honor to invite John Wright, Honorary Colonel of the Chief of Defense Staff Office and the Chair of the RCAF Foundation, to bring greetings.
Thank you, Jeremy. Good morning. We gather here today to pause in our busy lives to remember those who have served in Canada's military and given their lives in the service of their country. Their ultimate sacrifices help protect the freedoms and way of life we enjoy today and sometimes take for granted. This is our moment during each year to genuinely reflect upon those who have passed in this great service to us, and to remember that in addition to wearing a uniform, they were fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters who lived a much shorter life than they deserved. Simply put, they were taken much, much too soon so that all of us could be here today and bear witness in their stead, along with the many students and air cadets who are our sentinels of the future. And while we tend to focus on those who served and lost their lives in both world wars, we must also remember at least 1,000 more Canadians in our armed forces who have perished since the last great conflict in places such as Korea, Afghanistan, on peacekeeping missions in conflicted countries, in training mishaps or at sea, by military attributable death by their own hand, or even standing guard at our national memorial where an unknown soldier lies today. We especially mourn the 20 serving Canadians who have died since 2015, including at least 8 members of the Royal Canadian Air Force. Wing Commander William G. Barker, who you'll hear referenced a few times today, the most decorated military service member in the entire Commonwealth of Nations at just 24 years of age in 2018, 1 year less than Austin Matthews. Imagine, the most decorated. Lies in the mausoleum behind us. The first executive director of the Royal Canadian Air Force, he also co-founded the first commercial airline in Canada, along with our waterfront air show, set many flying records, inspired Amelia Earhart to fly, and even became the first president of the Toronto Maple Leafs, all before his untimely death in a plane crash at age 35. As he was being carried up these very steps, the 54,000 mourners, 54,000, the largest funeral in the history of this city, witnessed a sudden rush of aircraft directly over the mausoleum rooftop, a tribute to a fallen hero, a salute to those who had given their lives in the service of their country. Today, we will perform that same salute to honor those men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice from all branches of our service, Air Force, Army, and Navy, and hold close with honor and support their families and loved ones. In the shadows of silence today at 11 o'clock, let us also pray for the continued safety and well-being of our current serving Canadian Armed Forces, standing ready and on guard for us here, at home, and abroad, and especially the 1,000 of them who are in Europe assisting those who are defending the liberty and democracy of Ukraine. And for those veterans who remain among us, let their voices echo in the bugle reveille that follows the words that Tennyson's Ulysses spoke. And though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, one equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John, for those inspiring words and your ongoing leadership. It is now my pleasure to invite students from Hodgson Middle School to share some of their Remembrance Day messages.
Poppies. We wear these on our hearts to remember those we lost, who always used their smarts and never worried about the cost. Thank you to all the veterans, those who are no longer with us, and those who are still with us today. I am eternally grateful for all you did. You went through so much to protect your country. You are brave, strong, and fierce.
On November 11th, it is Remembrance Day, and I will remember all the sacrifices the veterans made and honor them by wearing a poppy on my heart. Thank you to all the veterans for keeping Canada safe.
Today is November 11th, otherwise known as Remembrance Day. As John McCree said, in Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses row on row that mark their place. And they all fought for us, and they will rest in peace. While we honor them, I thank all the soldiers, doctors, veterans, and many more, as they don't have to die to sacrifice their lives, because I can't imagine what I would do if I had gone through an experience as hard as they did. And if I had to choose or a million people, like the bravest people in the world, I can't think of other people than them.
Thank you so much. We're so grateful and honored to have so many students from Hodgson here today as they took the walk from their school over to the cenotaph in the cemetery today. It's wonderful to see you all here today. We are about to begin the formal Remembrance Day part of the service, which will include a parade and flag party coming from your left, my right. And we want to make sure that everybody has RCF flags, which looks like everybody has our flags waving here today, as we announce the flag parade to start in a few minutes. For those of you that have not attended one of these ceremonies, please get ready for a wonderful Hercules flyover that will happen at 11 o'clock to coincide with our 2 minutes of silence and those elements of a Remembrance Day ceremony close to the top of the hour. Please rise if you are able and direct your attention to the parade and flag party led by 16 Wing Borden. Remain standing for the arrival of Lieutenant General Eric Kenney, the commander of the Royal Canadian Air Force, and remain standing then for the national anthem.
Well, good morning. Welcome, and thank you for being here today. It's a great honor to be with you during this year's Remembrance Day ceremony, hosted once again in collaboration with the RCF Foundation. Je me tiens dans l'ombre d'un monument en honneur de l'un des plus grands de l'aviation royale canadienne, le lieutenant-colonel d'aviation William Barker, récipiendaire de la Croix de Victoria. This was a man who was larger than life and a key leader of the Royal Canadian Air Force in our early years. His record as Canada's most highly decorated war hero stands to this day. When he died, as we heard earlier from Honorary Colonel Wright, his funeral procession was one of the largest public events Toronto had ever seen, with a 2,000-person honor guard and 54,000 spectators. Interred in his wife's family crypt in the Mount Pleasant Cemetery Mausoleum, right behind me here in Toronto, Wing Commander Barker was forgotten in time until this long overdue memorial in William Barker's memory was unveiled just outside the mausoleum in September of 2011. Pour nous, tous rassemblés en ce lieu, comme c'est le cas un peu partout au Canada et dans de nombreux autres endroits au monde, la journée d'aujourd'hui revêt une grande importance. The members we honor come from all walks of life, but they shared several fundamental qualities. They possessed courage, pride, determination, selflessness, dedication to duty, and integrity. All the qualities needed to serve a cause larger than oneself. Ils étaient des gens ordinaires qui ont agi de manière extraordinaire dans des moments extrêmes. Ils ont répondu à l'appel de la nation parce qu'ils voulaient protéger le pays qui leur avait tant donné et qui nous a tant donné. We remember and honor all those retired and serving members of the Canadian Armed Forces who gave so much to make this country the greatest nation on earth. Mais nous nous souvenons surtout de ceux qui ont fait le sacrifice ultime pour ce pays. I want to again thank you for being here today to share in the ceremony with us. Nous sommes véritablement reconnaissants de l'appui offert par la communauté et la région, et nous ne l'oublierons jamais. Merci. Thank you.
You may be seated. Thank you, Commander Kenny, for those heartfelt remarks. We really appreciate you joining us here today, and those at the RCAF Foundation value our strong and close partnership with the Royal Canadian Air Force. Please welcome Mustafa Kaya, 16 Wing Chaplain, to offer reflection this morning.
In respecting individual beliefs and conscience, I invite you to take this moment for reflection. Dans le respect des croyances individuelles et de la conscience de chacun et chacune, je vous invite à prendre un moment de recueillement. Today, we give thanks for the women and men of every generation who answered the call to serve our country. And for those who stand on guard today, each sacrifice is etched in the cement that shapes the peace of our country and thus cannot be forgotten. So as Canada comes together today, may we be filled with inspiration and admiration for those who have given so much. It is with deep gratitude that we remember our veterans and serving members who suffer physical or psychological injuries. May they find healing and peace. We are forever grateful for the families who have supported and suffered along with service members. They are a source of strength and care that is indispensable and invaluable. We ask for strength for the leaders of the world and for those of our country. May they guide us with wisdom during the times of both war and peace. In a world fraught with struggle and instability, where war continues to rage in Ukraine, we gather to affirm with one another our determination to remove the barriers of division in a spirit of reconciliation. We seek dialogue with one another in all spheres, social, political, and religious, that in doing so we may achieve a lasting peace. May we all strive to continue our efforts to build a better world, lest we forget.
Thank you, Chaplain Kaya. As we have done since the end of the First World War, as we have done since the years following the First World War, we have recited the words of John McCrae in Flanders Fields. Today we have the privilege of having two grade 8 students from Hodgson Middle School, Aiden Dossa and Julia Ferreira, here today to recite in Flanders Fields. Aiden and Julia, please come to the podium.
In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow.
Loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
Thank you, Aiden and Julia. Please now welcome Renee Van Kessel, Honorary Colonel, 16 Wing, to recite the Act of Remembrance.
It is customary at the end of the Act of Remembrance for everyone in the audience to repeat the last line, which is, "We will remember them." They shall not grow old as we that are left behind grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them.
Thank you, Honorary Colonel Van Kessel. It is at this point in this ceremony that we come close to 11 o'clock, which is the time for our 2 minutes of reflection and silence. We're a few minutes ahead of that. But when we are ready to stand for the last post, followed by 2 minutes of silence, reveille, and the Piper's Lament. So I would encourage you all at this point to take a few minutes of reflection as we prepare for that portion of the ceremony. Please rise if you're able. Please be seated. I would now like to invite those who will be laying a wreath to do so in this order. Please come up when I call you, or please go with the wreath when I call you. The Canadian Armed Forces. The Royal Canadian Air Force. The RCAF Foundation. John, you want to go down? The family of William G. Barker. The Royal Canadian Air Force Association. The Royal Canadian Air Force Cadets. The Government of Canada. the Government of Ontario, St. Paul's. The Government of Ontario, Don Valley West. The Toronto District School Board. Hodgson Middle School. Toronto Police Service 53 Division. And Mount Pleasant Cemetery. For those that are able, please stand for God Save the King. Please be seated. It is on Remembrance Day that I think of the pledge Canadians made following the First World War to never forget. To never forget the service, to never forget the sacrifice, and to never forget the important and vital role a then very small country of Canada made in the pursuit of peace. It is on Remembrance Day that we were reminded how quickly the conflicts of the past are slipping further away from memory, and which makes it ever so important on occasions like today, particularly with so many students in attendance. It is your generation that will take the torch and ensure that those around it keep it lit, and I have every confidence that all of you will. It is on Remembrance Day that we also remember those servicemen and servicewomen and their families who continue to serve both here in Canada and around the world, and honor the long tradition of service in our country. We thank them today, we thank them always. And finally, it is on Remembrance Day that I think of both sets of my grandparents and what they sacrificed during the Second World War, including one in the Air Force. That we are gathered here today in person and online on this day would make them very proud. I hope this ceremony and this day has made you feel the same. Thank you so much for joining us. For those here, we welcome you to place poppies and wreaths at the William G. Barker Monument. Following the placing of the poppy and wreath, for those that are able, we invite you to enter the mausoleum behind me and pay respects to William Barker. To conclude the ceremony, we will be led by our piper Doug Swan to the final resting place of Captain Frank Quigley, First World War flying ace of the Royal Air Force. You are all welcome to place a flag in honor of the service and sacrifice of Captain Quigley and others on this reflective day. Please rise for the departure of the RCAF commander.
Right, attention!
Yep, sorry.
To the Royal Canadian Air Force Commander, Lieutenant General Kenny, General Salute! And shut!
Thank you again for attending today.